and we're always going to be on time. We're going to be positive, active participation in discussion, be prepared with your assignments, and our motto is every child college and career ready. And everybody today was going to do a PDSA cycle, and we're going to discuss those. Mr. Jordan, you want to start?
Yes.
Do you have the binder?
Go
You have it to me.
ahead.
The standard I'm working with is reading, and it's RL 4.1, refer to details and examples in a text when explaining what the text says explicitly, and when drawing inferences from the text. So I can statements. I can analyze text from a story that I'm reading in class to demonstrate my understanding of drawing inferences, and I can also use the inferences and justify the inferences from what I've read. Students are basically focusing on working with information that is not directly stated, and they're having a hard time working with that, so I thought using some graphic organizers to incorporate that within the classroom. Students must first demonstrate their understanding of both terms, analyze and inferences. They had to write the meanings on a post-it note, and we discussed that as a whole. Then I broke it up into my reading groups. Group A were reading paragraphs and answering the inference question. Not only did they have to come up with the inference, they had to justify. And with Group B, reading passages and answering what the inference is and why they come up with that inference. And Group C, basically working as a group together, completing an inference word web. We had an activity where they were broken into the reading groups. Group A had a success rate of 96.7%, Group B 90%, and Group C 57.8%. Both Groups A and B will continue to make emphasis in their reading passages and drawing conclusions based on evidence found within their reading passages. With Group A more justification, taking it to more of a level 3 type exercise. Group C requires a lot more modeling, incorporating the use of graphic organizers with the inference word web. They need a lot of, modeling, prompting, cueing. Some of my high yield instructional strategies I'm working on, we do the cooperative learning groups, generating, testing hypothesis, questions, cues, advanced graphic organizers, lots of practice. And whatever we do in class, we try to build on prior knowledge and somehow make a personal relevance to in their life with whatever we're talking about. It's just preparing for end of year testing, and what I found for the most part with my students is if it's not directly stated, I encourage the use of going back and looking for context clues, and we have a lot of group discussion about that. So this is basically an ongoing thing that we do on a daily basis right now. My hot list, students that I'm really having to do a lot of more one-on-one instruction with include Odessa, Cheyenne, Ethan, Ben, Natalie, and somewhat Leanne and Paige. I put question marks beside their names. I think basically it was just a day that something was going on. They were really not focused, and I think that was the result of their lower score.
You've seen them do better.
I've seen them do much better, so kind of question that, and I'll continue to watch that. And this is probably something on be ongoing through the remainder of the school year and preparing for end of year testing.
Yeah, inferencing is very hard for my students that's on there, and we did a lot of acting, just from them interpreting body language. And I said, well, did they say anything? And so they we started from there. But they should have.
Does that help? Does that help them when you do that?
Yes.
With them?
Yeah, they can actually see it.
And I think their confidence growing, especially when we're into the justification part, you know, looking beyond just a simple answer and, explaining.
We use pictures for inferences too. Like you just hold up a picture, tell them nothing about it. It can be anything. I have cards in my room. And they just write down inferences, what they see based on the picture, and it's not facts. And that kind of helps get them started. If you were doing centers with it, maybe have them draw a picture from a story and maybe do inferences
Triumphs,
or
if
something.
there's some of those triumphs around, even the one that's in my room, there are like 12 pictures. And there'll be a picture
I have
of
some.
a family at a lake. And
I have those.
okay,
I have those
it's
in my room.
those-
Yeah,
it's
those
those.
are really good. I've
They
used
are
those
good.
before in the past in the
I like
classroom for kids, just sit and, just write details
What
of
else? What is
what they
this?
infer, what's going
We
on.
can do that.
What,
Sometimes it's a
what could they be
quick
saying to
start.
each other, what can they do?
What happened?
Yeah.
We basically try to look at a specific scenario and we start narrowing down, aspects of it, things that we can eliminate as being a possible inference
Right.
on what is stated. And, they feel like it's a type of game and they
Mhm.
really enjoy that.
That's good.
That's where they want to
Hands
act
on.
now.
Yeah.
Yeah. I want to feel like
All right, Jenna.
Want me to go?
Okay, yeah.
Last week I did reading, so I thought I'd switch back to math. My standard is 5th grade measurement and data. 1, convert like measurement units within a given measurement system. So we actually just started the metric system today. They said that they'd been exposed to it, but they had no idea. So we talked about the 3 base units. I gave them just one little sheet of paper. It has little facts.
Mhm.
So grams, liters, and meters are the base units, and then I just kind of gave them facts about what's bigger, what's smaller. What their goal was to do was to make some kind of graphic organizer that had the base unit and then tell me what was smaller, what was bigger, as in like a deco, a hecto, a kilo, a deci, a centi, and a milli. And they had to tell me the base 10 system. I did give them, that was a fact on here, that it was a base 10 system similar to what we've already used. So I gave a good example of somebody that did it perfect, and then I did an example of somebody that got it but was still maybe struggling. She doesn't have her like tenths, hundredths, thousandths compared to her whole numbers. What I did after I assessed this, I gave them I gave them a little matching game. I kind of made it myself, but I gave them the base unit, like milliliters, liters, and kiloliters, and they had to sort like a spoonful of milk. Would a spoonful of milk, which one would it fit, which most likely? So they could use the information they had, the chart they made, and they would place it where it would go. The average size of a swimming pool, which one would that be? So they sorted that for each of the units. So I did the meters, liters, and a gram. Since it was our first day, it was inquiry based. I didn't do much teaching. I kind of walked around the room and observed. So what I did observe was a high group that got it pretty easy. Tess, Dallas, Nolan, Jasmine, and Tamara. Parker was out eating, so he didn't get that far with us. I think Parker would have been okay. So what I did with the kids that got it, I had these ready because I assumed some kids would get it today pretty easy. Converting metrics and actual numbers. So 1 meter equals how many centimeters, a half of a meter equals how many centimeters. These kids got it really easy. The kids that didn't get it, I kind of coached them on these. I pulled small groups to work on these. So what I did as a teacher, I presented it. I let them do inquiry-based lesson. I observed and I questioned as we went through. The students used models, they drew pictures, they used cooperative learning groups, and they were developing a conceptual understanding of it with no real instruction. What I decided to do from here on out is moving the enrichment group on. I want them to start doing more conversions, harder conversions, and using the English system to compare to. What I'm going to do with my lower group is just continue conceptual learning using more visuals, manipulatives. I'll show you my phone real quick. I took a couple pictures. I bring them into Con every day, as you guys already know, for 30 minutes or so. I took pictures today of a lesson straight from Con that was on this skill. So Tess was, of course, higher. She was one of my high groups. Write the length of 13 meters in centimeters. So that was a question she had on her con. Well, somebody that was lower, for instance, Ryan, had to use the same exact type things we had here, where he was matching millimeters, meters, and centimeters.
Great.
So I used Con with it. They like the interactive learning with that. Let's see. What we're going to continue to do is practice informative assessments. And technically, by our pacing guide, this is not where we're at. Just to be honest, we're on fractions. But I've been on fractions for almost 7 weeks now. So I thought I would start using the coach book and start getting some measurement and some geometry that we haven't had time to hit yet. So this is kind of just going to be embedded on days that we need a fraction break.
So what you're gonna do is basically use 2 groups within the room and just alternate you with a group, the other group doing, I'm sorry. Oh, I'm sorry. So, I don't know. So you're gonna like work with a small group while the other group does inquiry-based lessons?
Inquiry-based.
And then
I
switch
even,
it off about halfway through?
yeah, and I think I can easily divide them into 2 groups. And same thing with in here in Con. I can have people, like some kids doing the Con lessons for it while I work with other kids either on fractions or enriching them further. Right now, I don't even know that I have an intervention group because it was just my first day
Right.
doing it. So the high yield instructional strategies, cooperative learning, feedback, questioning, similarities and differences, practice, and then the non-linguistic representations.
How did Parker do when he came back from eating?
Well, when we came back from eating, we started our social studies. I was
So
trying to
he
give him
didn't get to
time. He hasn't finished. He did do one of these models, the first thing that we did, and he seemed to do okay with it. He didn't get to use any of these.
Okay.
So I don't know how. I think he would do okay, but I don't know. I think he did. We'll see.
Have you
We'll
looked
get
at
him.
the mindsets in the classroom book yet?
No, I haven't looked at him
It's
yet.
got a lot of stuff in there about math, dividing into 2 classes, basically how like reading groups work.
Oh, yeah.
We use the math.
Different
I think it just
skills.
backs up a lot of stuff that we're doing.
Yeah, I think the inquiry-based lessons is the best way to get the most like bang for your buck because you can have so many different skills going on and the kids lead it themselves.
Oh, yeah.
So you can just kind of
Good.
make sure they're doing okay.
Okay, so do you want me
Maybe
to,
we'll
I can
chalk
assign
it.
Ryan and Dalton
Maybe take
measurement
Lisa's
on
copy and
Moby.
get it.
On Moby would be
Yeah.
good.
I've been
Try to go through the standards. You said last week you had the standards based. It was like standards based. You
Yeah,
went for the
yes,
test.
but I don't have them assigned, like 5th grade content yet. But I can go in there and add
Start the measurement.
measurements in there.
I think
So
that would be
so it
good.
aligns with what you're doing in there.
That'd be good.
So when it, yeah.
We
that'll
just started it today, but it's something we have to hit
work. Okay.
Well,
Well, they
Is
can
that
even do it in
on
here.
Moby?
for quite a
Yeah,
while.
to go ahead and assign the
Get them
5th
started
grade,
on Moby
the 5th grade standards for that, so they're exposed to it on Moby.
Mm-hmm.
and in class and on Con.
Yeah.
I think that'll be good for
Yeah,
hers.
that's good.
So.
Well, that's kind of hard concept of conversion.
I think it's hard.
It is
and
hard.
tricky.
The kids are so familiar with like the standards, like the English
Mhm.
one. They were throwing all those out today, and I was like, oh, you know, guys, this is different. But I tried to show them real life things, even just little examples. Like I held a water bottle up, and I held, I don't know, just little different manipulatives. But they're doing okay with it. They should understand base 10, and I think it's just hard for them to have that connection because they're not familiar with it yet. We'll get there.